Welcome back to another gaming handheld spotlight video. Today we are looking at the ROG Ally, or ROG Ally, or ROG Ally, Ally, however you want to say it. Made by Asus, I believe. Asus does Republic of Gamers, I believe. But yeah, another handheld, and it's kind of like, if you've heard of the Steam Deck, kind of along those lines. It's a handheld PC. It can play a bunch of games. Can do normal PC stuff too, if you wanted to. But yeah, I'm not a professional tech reviewer, but I'm gonna give my thoughts on it and what I use it for. So, first off, we have this case, this purple case, made by Skull and Company. Nice little textured grip, which is nice. Nice cutouts for our back buttons and for airflow. And the coolest part, I think, is that it stands up. So you can display it on a shelf, or if you were wanting to play a two-player game like the Switch and connect two controllers, you could do that. So yeah. The ROG Ally. So these come stock running Windows. Nothing against Windows. I use Windows on my main PC. But for a more console-like experience, I put something called Bazzite on this, which is basically SteamOS. So it runs kind of like a Steam Deck because it has the same OS, more or less. It's a kind of an independent project these people did, so it kind of turns it into a Steam Deck, which I think is really cool. So it operates in the same environment. You still have this menu. In this menu, you can control, your performance and all that stuff, which is cool. And yeah, totally like a console. With Windows, it was a little buggy at times. It could be buggy, and then you'd have to use the touch screen for everything to navigate, and Windows can be a big resource hog as well. So, Bazzite is using Linux, so it's a little more lightweight, a little more, you can give a little more power to the games that you're playing. Speaking of which, so here is my library, or at least what I have installed on here, and this can run most games. It's a little more powerful than the Steam Deck in terms of graphics and all that, but yeah, you can run some decent AAA titles on here, like you can play Skyrim, even though that's an older game. Crazy to think about. Playing some Witcher. I love Super Mega Baseball, so that's on here. Really cool. Even Death Stranding. I tried out the new Oblivion. Let's make sure I got the volume down. Tried the new Oblivion on here. It doesn't run super great, I think, even though they give it a platinum for how it runs on here. I think that's for the old Oblivion, not remastered. but you know, it'll kill your battery if you try to run games like this. Get a sip of coffee. I mean, it's decently playable if you're somebody who likes to run everything in higher frame rates. You know, a full-on PC would probably be better to run this game. Let's just go over the system. Obviously, got your 2 analog sticks. Nice and clicky. I don't know why that moves the page when you click. That's weird. Give you an idea how they sound. And then you can hear that fan going too. Just kind of lightly blowing right now because we're not doing anything. I like the 8-way kind of Sega Genesis D-pad, which is pretty cool. I like that. I'll give you a little sound test of that. I like that. I like that, the way that sounds. It sounds good. And then we have these kind of 4 face buttons. They kind of serve as menu buttons. These do more if you're running Windows on this. So it brings up like the ROG Armory Crate, which is kind of like a all-in-one controller for the system settings and all that. But yeah, these 4 face buttons, which kind of serve as your, that'll bring up that right menu. These come up a little slower on Bazzite than it does on like SteamOS on a Steam Deck, but it's not bad. I was actually really impressed with Bazzite now. Few bugs there were switching over from Windows. So anyway, back to the controls. Oh, these analog sticks. So these are purple. They're showing up as kind of white on camera, but these are supposed to be purple. I don't know if I can. Yeah, kind of more purpley. And then on Bazzite, these 2 back buttons actually. The left one doesn't bring up a keyboard in here, but it usually brings up a keyboard. And then the right one is kind of your controller for how much power you want your system to run at. So if you notice on performance, if your game's running a little slower, you can go to turbo or set it at custom at whatever wattage you want it to run at, which is cool. And then you can actually change the RGB for the thumbsticks to different things like rainbow. If you're into that, we'll cycle through colors. So yeah, they've already released a slightly more powerful version of this. The ROG Ally X, which has a bigger battery, which, you know, is like most things, they release it right after you buy the generation before, which I did, so I was kind of bummed because I was like, could use more battery power, but oh well. But yeah, you can go solid. Where do you change the color? It's gotta be somewhere. There we go. There we go. So yeah, you can change the hue. I'm just gonna leave it at purple though. Well, no, screw it. hard to see in the camera though. Hang on, I'm gonna shut my watch off because it's bugging me. Bugging me. Today's I'm actually took off work today, so I'm working from home kind of. Okay, and then yeah, you got your 4 face buttons. Xbox style, ABXY. Those are pretty clicky sounding. They rattle around a little bit, not terrible. Not terrible. Kind of clicky. I don't like the way they sound too much if, you're trying to be quiet. Because this is kind of a great system to lay in bed and play. So I don't want to wake up the significant other by, doing that. So, not a huge fan. But they get the job done. Going to the top, stacked shoulder buttons. Got your left and right bumpers, kind of clicky. I don't think as noisy as the face buttons. And then your triggers. Those are relatively quiet. Trigger buttons. Don't hear those too much. And then rounding out the buttons, what are these actually called? The M2 and the M1. When I do the soft talking, I notice my voice continuously gets more raspy as I go on. I have to clear my throat. And these are pretty loud. Pretty poppy sounding buttons. Those don't sound too terrible. Kind of loud though. And at the top we have something rare nowadays. Headphone jack. And then probably the worst part of the design, this micro SD card slot. Why is that bad? Well, because it is literally next to this exhaust for, heat dissipation. So a lot of people's SD cards have fried because of this design flaw. So as you can see, there isn't one in there because I don't feel like frying an SD card. I mean, I did have one in there when I first started until I read about the SD card. I was like, I'm not going to use it. But other than that, it works good. You can run games off of it, expand your storage. What I ended up doing was just buying a new SSD. A 2 terabyte. So now I'm sitting on roughly 2 terabytes, 1.9 of storage. So it'll fit all my games quite well. As you can see, I've barely even gotten half of that full. So yeah, don't put an SD card if you buy one of these. If you buy the Ally X, I think they remedied that issue and put it somewhere else. So, USB-C charging. If I could pull this up. This is actually a cover I bought for like $1. If I can get it off without breaking it. Okay, there we go. Wow, that's in there. Jeez. So yeah, USB-C, and then that extra port is actually for, I believe they call it an eGPU. So you can actually plug in a more powerful graphics card into this to get better performance, which is crazy and something I probably would never do. And I would imagine most people buying this would not go that route because those things are upwards of, I don't know, $1,000, just crazy expensive. So I wish they would have put this SD card spot here instead so it wouldn't burn up. But yeah, I bought this little cover just to kind of protect it from dust. So it just looks a little cleaner. Okay. Volume buttons. Pretty self-explanatory. And then power LED, charging LED. And then your on button. And then if you're running Windows, if you wanted to stay on Windows, this actually is a fingerprint reader. Not compatible with this Linux distribution, but nice for security if you use this for more than gaming. You know. Coffee. Okay. And then, excuse me. And then 2 exhaust fans. There's actually 2 fans in here. Unlike the Steam Deck that only has the one, so the cooling on this is actually really, really good. I found even running games, upwards of 20 watts, the cooling actually stays pretty decent. So yeah, probably one of the best designs of the system, other than the SD card problem. Yep, pretty good. And then yeah, along the back, just cold air intake. Nothing on the bottom. And yeah, those 2 buttons. So that's basically it for any of the input and output. So let's just dive into, boy, what's something good that we could play or show off that's going to load up quickly. And I'll just pause it for a second. Okay, we're going to launch up Hades. Super fun roguelike game. Hopefully it doesn't take too long to launch. It usually doesn't. Sometimes it has to process some shaders, which just make the game run better. And there we are. That didn't take too long. There we are, Hades. Boy, I have played a lot of this game and still have not completed a run. It's disappointing. So as you can see, just like the Steam OS, you can put a little frame rate. Oh, by the way, this panel, this display, 1080p, 120 hertz. So super overkill for a handheld, I feel like. Looks super great. It is not OLED, but I don't think you need it. I think it looks great. Like the blacks are actually pretty deep for not having a OLED panel. So, as you can kind of hear, those fans are really kicking in now. The fans are really kicking in. What do I have it on? Yeah, I have it on custom. So I turn it down, if I can get my camera focus, to 15 watts performance. These fans are actually going to be a lot quieter. And yet our performance is still at 120 frames a second, so you kind of got to play around with each game to see what it needs for power Yeah, let's just start a run here. What do I like? Getting the gun. Oh no, these are the gloves. This is the gun. I kind of like the gun. I'll just start a run. I've come so close to almost beating a run so many times. Hades is, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's a cool game where you, different, mythological gods kind of help you along the way to try to escape the underworld, kind of a thing. See, there you go. Now the keyboard comes up. Fit this back button. Oops, got hit there. But yeah, really, really good performance in games like this that aren't so demanding. You can get 120 hertz. You kind of have to hold this at an awkward angle for the camera to pick up the screen properly. Otherwise I'd be holding it like this from where I'm sitting, but I can fish. It's a fishing spot. And then, the analog sticks are a lot different compared to any other console. They're very, loose feeling. They're, super easy to move. So if you're not into that, this might not be for you. Or you can maybe try to replace them with something different. I do notice, over time, they kind of get loose in the casing a little bit. Like if you push down lightly, they kind of do a little weird clicky thing. Yeah, that's not me actually pushing down the stick to hit the button. This is just kind of just rocks weirdly. It's a little annoying, but I looked it up and it's pretty common. I think somebody had some fix where you put tape in there or something. I don't know. Not something I want to do. I already opened it up once. I don't want to do it again. Which, by the way, if you do buy this and you do want to upgrade the storage by putting a new SSD in, it's actually pretty simple. Pretty easy to do. Especially if you've done anything with a computer before. But yeah, that's Hades. Let's switch to something else. One kind of annoying thing is this shader processing. I've been waiting about 5 minutes. This happens every time there is an update, but it makes the game run way smoother. So I'm just gonna let this finish and I'll be back. Okay, so I couldn't wait any longer. I had to skip the shader processing just because it was taking too long. But as you can see, we're getting 40, 50, which isn't, too great in Days Gone. By the way, that's the name of the game. I didn't realize I didn't say that. It's kind of like a apocalypse zombie killing game. And even though this says 40 to 50, it's very smooth. It doesn't feel like 40 to 50. And sometimes we'll get up to 60, depending on the area. If I turn the graphics down a little bit, I probably would get that too. But yeah. Another thing a bad person? I think so. Oh my god, I'm getting shot. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh my goodness. The violence. Who's shooting me? I don't know who's shooting me. Like I had a wrench of some sort. Anyway, you can really hear those fans moving. Another con about this system is that battery life. I may have mentioned it, especially in games like this that are more graphically intensive. I mean, you can expect to get this to play for an hour. It just kills the battery. Like, I got half an hour left. And when I turn this on to show you guys, I was around like 90, 80, so playing plugged in or using a battery bank is probably your best bet, which kind of takes away the portability. But, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. So I always say. So yeah, those days gone. One more thing. It does have a desktop mode, so if you did want to plug in like a keyboard and a mouse, God forbid you'd want to use this touchscreen to navigate, but you can, web browse and install whatever programs Linux would have to offer. And then, obviously, if you kept Windows on, you could use it like a full-fledged Windows PC, which is also cool. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say about the ROG Ally, the ROG Ally. I call it the Rogue. I don't know why. But yeah, great little device. This is the Z1 Extreme version, so it's a faster processor. They have just the Z1, which I wouldn't expect to play AAA games like Days Gone on. But, maybe like your indie titles, if you're only into that. But yeah, these should be, I think these are on sale now. On like a discount because of the ROG Ally X, ROG Ally X. That's out. So, yeah, pretty cool. Do I like it as much as my Steam Deck? Now that it has Bazzite on it, for a more console-like experience, I would say yes. It's because it is a Steam Deck experience with more power, because this thing is faster. But yeah, I give it 2 thumbs up. I give it a 9 out of 10. It's a great little device. So, that's all I got for this one, and I'll see you